Hey Bible lovers, we're going to be doing part 2 of this amazing exhibit that our friend Perry is so gracious to show us. So let's go ahead and dive into this second part where it looks like we're moving into the Tyndale and some of the English Bibles. So let's check it out.
Well, so after Martin Luther decided to translate the Bible into German, an English scholar in England decided he would like to have the Bible printed in English. So at that particular time, it's still illegal to print the Bible in languages other than Greek, Hebrew, or Latin, but William Tyndale decided to defy church policy as well as the law and print the Bible in English. So the first Tyndale Bible was done in the year 1526, but we don't have a copy of it. Only 3 copies of that Bible exist. We do have a copy of the second printing of Tyndale's Bible, which was done during his lifetime in the year 1534. So this is only the second printing of English scripture. Tyndale knew he could be executed for doing this. He fled to Belgium, hoping to stay out of the reach of King Henry VIII. In the meantime, another Bible scholar by the name of Miles Coverdale printed the complete Bible in English. So this is a page from the book of Jeremiah. It is an original first edition, first printing of the Coverdale Bible in 1535.
And I don't believe they even have facsimiles of these available.
You might be able to find like a PDF.
Yeah. So I know like the Matthew Bible and several others, Hendrickson and different publishers provide them copies, but I've never seen, this is the first I've ever seen a printed page of this.
Well, and Coverdale was himself very concerned that he might be executed. He escaped execution because the Prince of Denmark wrote a letter to King Henry VIII and asked him to spare Miles Coverdale. Coverdale also was not quite as controversial with the king as William Tyndale was, so that's kind of the difference between the two fates. But Tyndale was eventually betrayed by a friend in Belgium. He was tried in Belgium for heresy, and at the request of Henry VIII, he was actually still in England, he was executed by a method that we now call garroting, which is strangling a person to death. And there's actually a drawing here of the garroting of William Tyndale that was published in Fox's Book of Martyrs. The year after Tyndale died, the year 1537, some people continued publishing his New Testament. This is actually published after his death, part of the book of 2 Thessalonians.
Now, is it true that the Tyndale Bibles were small like this for the purpose of being able to hide them?
I think by the time Tyndale began printing, it was a mixture of people discovering ways to make smaller typeface and the realization that paper is expensive, so if we can reduce the size of these, and yes, these are easier to smuggle, which they were smuggled from Belgium into England, often under cover of night, across the English Channel.
Yeah.
In 1537, there was another English scholar by the name of John Rogers. He was very concerned about being executed, like Tyndale, for publishing the Bible in English. So he printed this Bible under the pseudonym of Matthew, and we now call it the Matthew Tyndale Bible, but it's primarily a translation from Tyndale.
Didn't he borrow from the Coverdale Bible too?
Yes, he borrowed from several different translations.
Okay.
And this is from the book of Mark.
Yeah, nice. Just amazing, the history, just in the English translation on this side, to where we dove into some of the Greek and the Hebrew and the Latin on the other side, even German and beyond. So it's just fascinating.
God has a miraculous way of preserving His Word.
Absolutely.
Only 3 years after Henry VIII had William Tyndale executed, he authorized the printing of the first English Bible. A lot of people think that's a really short period of time to have a complete change of attitude about the printing process. But the very first authorized Bible, that is authorized by a monarch of England, was called the Great Bible. So this is the title page of the book of John, printed under the authority of King Henry VIII.
So, Lord, open the eyes of the king. The prayer was answered.
That's right. When Tyndale was executed, his last words were, "Lord, open the King of England's eyes."
Yeah.
And that seems to be exactly what happened.
Yeah. Pretty cool. So this is original, yes?
This is original. This Bible had words in it that some scholars felt like were not accurate translations. It was kind of controversial and criticized for that reason. Eventually, King Henry VIII died. He was succeeded by his son Edward. He died as a teenager. He was then replaced by his sister, his half-sister Mary. She only ruled for 5 years, and she eventually was succeeded on the throne by her sister Elizabeth I. Elizabeth authorized the printing of the Bishop's Bible. The exhibit has a copy of the Bishop's Bible. It's not on display here. But that was actually the second authorized English Bible. Finally, Queen Elizabeth died. The next King of England was King James VI of Scotland, who became King James I of England. Scotland and England were united under his rule. King James approved the third authorized edition of the English Bible, and that, of course, is the English King James that most people are familiar with. It was first printed in the year 1611. This Bible is the most printed English book in human history. It had an enormous impact on even the grammar and spelling of the English language. It was controversial when it was printed, and it had to compete with a Protestant Bible known as the Geneva Bible. So let's talk about the Geneva Bible. During the reign of Queen Mary, who succeeded her brother, she attempted to convert the entire country back to its Catholic roots. She was raised by her mother, Catherine of Aragon, whom King Henry VIII divorced, and she was raised by her mother. She didn't like the idea that England had become a Protestant country, and so her reign, which began in 1553 to 1558, involved the persecution of many, many people over theological reasons. She forbade the Bible to be printed in English because the church at the time didn't like that idea. There was a lot of concern about mistranslations and heretical teaching that might result. So what happened during her reign, several English reformers left England. They went as far south as Geneva, Switzerland, and they set up a printing press, and they began printing what we now know as the Geneva Bible. The English Geneva Bible was a favorite of Protestant reformers. It was the Bible that the Pilgrims brought to the colonies on the Mayflower in 1620. It was continued in its printing up to about 1644. But when the Geneva Bible was first printed, the Geneva New Testament was the limit of what they published, and this is a first edition, first printing of the Geneva Bible.
New Testament only.
New Testament only.
And those footnotes that irritated the monarchy so much.
That's right. The translators of the Geneva New Testament felt that there had been some confusion on what the Bible actually said, so there are references in there how they felt the original Greek should be translated. So in the year 1560, the reformers lived in Geneva, printed the entire Bible, and this is a page from the complete Bible. And then they continued printing the complete Bible. This is the 1562 publication, and this is the entire book of Psalms.
Nice. So this is a whole, like, signature.
Yes.
Okay, really cool.
Now, when I talk about the Geneva Bible, I can't resist talking about how the Geneva Bible had to be smuggled to get it from Geneva, Switzerland into England. But that story is perilous. The reformers would print the Bibles, hide them in cotton bales, place the cotton bales usually in ox carts, and the ox carts would head north toward England. Eventually they would reach France. From France, they headed up pretty much along the eastern border of the country until eventually they came to the English Channel. At the English Channel, they had another problem, and that is that Queen Mary had ordered her navy to intercept any boats that were carrying a Geneva Bible. The navy was under orders to arrest the smugglers, to seize the Bibles, and have them burned. But eventually, quite a few of the copies made it into England, and what you see here are examples of those Bibles. If those Bibles could talk, they would have an incredible story to describe what it was like to go across Geneva into France, all the way across the English Channel and into England.
Yeah. Yeah, we owe a great debt to those that preserve the Bible in English and to get it into the common man's language so that even the plowboy could read the scripture.
That's right. And you're quoting Wycliffe,
Yeah.
who translated the English Bible in the 1200s, I believe, and was so in favor of the publication that he told friars that before he was finished, he wanted every plowboy to have
Yeah.
a copy of the English Bible.
So it looks like we're moving into the Martyrs, Fox's Book of Martyrs. Wow.
Yes.
I've got copies of Fox's Book of Martyrs, but I've never seen anything this beautiful before.
Well, Fox's Book of Martyrs is still available in bookstores. It's a very published book. In England, a gentleman named John Fox became very concerned that almost 300 people during the reign of Queen Mary were being executed, had been executed all over theological questions. And so this helped cement public opposition to burning people alive and
Goodness.
that type of abuse just because of differences of opinion on interpretation of Scripture. So this is his 1570 first printing, and he included a drawing of the strangulation or the garroting of
And
William
this is
Tyndale.
what you were referencing earlier.
Yes.
Yeah. And the copies that I have don't have these. Are those wood stamp images?
These are considered wood cuts. I'm not sure just exactly how they were converted into a mechanism, but by 1570, the printing process had improved. Even etchings were being used in the printings.
Yeah.
This is a very disturbing story. Rose Allen was a 16-year-old girl who chose to not attend the Queen's Church. And so a constable was sent out with soldiers to investigate why they weren't going to the church. And she explained that her interpretation of Scripture and her personal theology and family's theology didn't align with those teachings. So this constable, who apparently had quite a mean streak, grabbed hold of her right hand. She was holding a water jug in her left hand, and he took a lit candle and held it under her hand and tried to basically torture her into recanting some of her beliefs. But she spoke very eloquently. There were people that actually made a transcript of what she told the constable. She stood there hardly flinching, but witnesses said that the candle burned so long that they could hear the sinews popping in her hand.
Yeah.
When the incident was over, she wrapped her hand in a rag, and soldiers then went to her parents' home. She was arrested, her parents were arrested, they were tried for heresy. All three of them were burned at the stake.
Goodness.
Alive. A lot of scholars were burned at the stake, people like the Oxford scholars, people like Latimer, who was a professor at Oxford. This is a depiction of the burning of John Frith and Andrew Hewitt.
Goodness. Boy, and we complain about such inconsequential things, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
Well, the Catholic Church eventually agreed to permit the translation of the Bible into English. The first New Testament was printed in 1582. But what's interesting about this is it was printed in Reims, France. And the reason for that is by 1582, Queen Mary's sister, Queen Elizabeth, had taken over. She was a Protestant monarch. The Catholic flair to the translation of the New Testament had to be printed in France because that had become illegal in England. So the first Catholic translation of the New Testament was printed in Reims, France. The Old Testament was not printed until 1609, and then the complete Bible, which became known as the Douay-Rheims Bible, was printed in 1610.
So pre-exists the King James Version.
By just a couple of years,
Yeah.
That's right. Douay is also a city in France, and the University of Douay participated in the translation of the Old Testament.
Nice.
There's probably a tendency to think that the first Bibles printed in the Americas were in English. That's not true. The first Bible to be printed in any language in the Americas was actually printed in the language of the Massachusetts Indians. This is the John Eliot Bible, printed in 1663. He translated the Bible for Native Americans, and so that's the first printing.
Nice.
In the 1700s, a German printer by the name of Christopher Sauer immigrated to called colonies at the time because we had not become the United States. And he began printing the Bible in the German language, mostly for German immigrants to use while they were in this part of the world. Christopher Sauer's first Bible was the 1743 Bible. The paper and typeface had to be imported from Germany. So this was actually the second printing of the Bible in the Americas, but the first printing using European paper and typeface. He continued printing Bibles in German. In 1763, he printed the third Bible printed in the Americas, but this Bible was the first to use American paper and the first to use American-made typeface. All these pages, though, would have been made with non-acidic paper.
Yeah.
Acidic paper wasn't even invented until about the year 1900. Well, some very interesting things happened in 1776. This was the third printing of Christopher Sauer's Bible, and in 1776, of course, the United States declared its independence from England. The English king, who was George III, was not very happy about that, and he was not happy about the fact that a lot of printers in what had been the colonies were printing literature and materials that were not particularly favorable to monarchy. So he ordered British troops to go around destroying printing presses. And this one being in Germantown, Pennsylvania, was one that was subject to that. Christopher Sauer learned that British troops were en route to Germantown. He did his best to save as many leaves from this Bible as he could, and saved a handful of Bibles that had already been bound. So this is a 1776 complete
So this
Bible.
is an entire Bible
Yes.
from that leaf.
Yes.
Wow.
Now here's what happened. The British troops came in. It wasn't too unexpected that they were going to destroy the print shop. But what really offended people is the British troops took these leaves that they found a lot of on the floor and elsewhere and used them to make wadding for their guns. which in turn they used to shoot at Americans. So this was known as the Sour Gunwad Bible, and it didn't gain a sort of battle cry like Remember the Alamo or something like that, but early Americans became very indignant about the fact that leaves from Sauer's German Bible were used for wadding.
That's pretty wild.
So the first English Bible wasn't printed in the Americas until 1782, and it was called the Aiken Bible. The Bible was printed while the Revolution continued to be in progress, so the Aiken Bible is also known as the Bible of the American Revolution.
Right. And just to be clear, when we talk about American, we're talking about what eventually became the USA.
Yes.
So when we're talking about first English Bibles in America, we're not necessarily talking about from London and Tyndale and all that other stuff.
Correct.
Just wanted to clarify that for the audience, just in case they're like, wait a minute.
Well, in fact, I used the word Americas to describe North and South America, but it's a little confusing. The United States of America is one of the countries of the Americas.
Right.
But this was the first English.
You mean we're actually not the center of the world?
Well, I hate to disillusion some people. Well, and then I might show you the Isaac Collins Bible, because this is considered the first American family Bible. It was printed in 1791.
Now, what translation is this?
I think mostly King James language, yes.
Okay. So interesting. So the first American family Bible, 1791.
Right.
Really slick. We'll get to those in a minute too, because that's some really cool stuff.
All right. Moving down, we have some pages from the very first printings of the Bible in certain languages. So you've already got some of the first printings of the complete German Bible, 1535, the first complete English Bible, also 1535. What you're looking at here is the first printing of the French Helvetian Bible, also 1535. Then the Swedes printed a complete Bible in 1541.
Basically, he wanted to go to Rome.
And then the Danes in Denmark printed the first Danish Bible in 1550. And then the Spaniards printed the first Spanish Bible, known as the Ozo Bible. And for people who speak Spanish, the word Ozo means bear. And it got the nickname of the Ozo Bible because for some reason a bear was depicted on the title page. So that was done in 1569. Then the Welsh Bible in the native Welsh language was first printed in 1588. And the first Bible printed in the Irish language, which is a dialect of Gaelic,
Okay.
was printed in 1685, and it was actually printed in London.
All right. So there's what Gaelic looks like, y'all. Check that out. Really cool. Now we move over on to this stuff, and what's going on over here. We've already talked about what's on the wall here, but what about these coins? Now, are these replicas or are these the real deal?
All of these are the real deal.
Wow.
Coins make excellent artifacts, and I might add that the definition of the word artifact is just simply an object that is made by a human being. So coinage falls into that category, but we have coins from biblical times. Some of them actually mentioned in the Bible. Those are from ancient Judea. These are the 12 Caesars, as they are known in history, from the Roman Empire. They start with Julius Caesar and end up with the Emperor Domitian.
Wow. So basically 12 different emperors in chronological order and their coins.
Yes. Augustus was the emperor at the time of Christ's birth. Tiberius was the emperor at the time of Christ's crucifixion.
Wow.
And then between about 1100 and 1270, several European monarchs sent troops into Jerusalem to regain control from Muslim conquests. These are coins from some of the more famous crusaders. And then finally, the Protestant Reformation involved Martin Luther. His protector was a Prince Elector of the German state known as Saxony. His name was Frederick III. There's actually a coin that was used at the time of Martin Luther, and several other kings of Europe and queens who were very much part of the Protestant Reformation.
Yeah. So what I'm really interested in is this 1901 over here, because the introduction of the red letter, and what a lot of people don't realize is older Thomas Nelson Bibles would actually have a little quick story about the Klopsch Bible, which was the first red letter Bible. So the words of Christ weren't always in red in the English Bibles. In fact, they weren't until the 1900s. So
Yes.
tell me about this. That's really cool.
Well, the New Testament was printed in 1899. The red edition for Christ's words were not designed for emphasis, at least not initially. They were printed that way to honor the blood sacrifice that he made on the cross. And then the complete Klopsch Bible was printed in 1901.
And this one actually, if you were in the New Testament, it would have red letters as well.
Right. It's
And
not
this is a New Testament only, so a couple years earlier.
right.
And then the first full Bible in 1901.
And it's not turned to the New Testament primarily because the Bible would be too much on this side of
Right, to be protected, because people would get their little grubby hands all over it. And but you get a pretty good example of what the red letter would have looked like in this edition as well. So yeah, fascinating stuff, but there is a little bit more that we'll go ahead and go see over here. And you can tell us about this last little bit. What do we got going on here?
These are artifacts from the time of ancient Rome. They date between 100 BC and 200 AD. So the ancient Romans used necklaces. There's some debate among historians on just exactly how that was placed around a woman's neck, but it's bronze and not the easiest thing to spring.
Yeah.
Early Christians revered bones of saints and
So the relics.
the relics of the saints. This is a ring. If you could see it close up, there's actually a skull on there. That wasn't designed to be like a horror show or a mystery from Halloween, but instead to honor a saint.
And what's with the nails?
The nails are not crucifixion type or anything, but the Romans did have nails when they were building wood.
Yeah, the crucifixion types would have been about 9 inches, right?
Yes, much
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah. And we've got some ancient lamps here.
Yes, these come from the Holy Land. If you could turn this lamp upside down, you would see a cross on the bottom.
Okay.
And the reason that was significant is Christians were oppressed before the time of Constantine, and they had to be very careful about disclosing to someone, I am a Christian. So you could go into somebody's house, very discreetly lift that lamp off of maybe a mantle or something,
Okay.
look at the bottom. If you saw a cross on it, you knew it was safe to discuss Christianity with
Okay.
this person.
So almost kind of like the ichthus.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And now that you mention ichthus, there's an ichthus in the middle of the two holes. This one's probably more Byzantine, but it shows a dove and an old cross.
This is the one that shows the ichthus right here.
Right.
And then that's the dove and the cross, more Byzantine. Gotcha.
This dates from the time of King David.
Whoa. What is it?
It is a dish-style lamp.
Okay.
The wick would have been placed right here, and oil.
And I guess the black there is the char from where it's
Yes,
actually been used.
It has been used.
During the times of David. Woo!
And these are pottery pieces, different types of bottles and jars. Could have been used for any number of things, including perfume. This particular type of vase is associated with myrrh and frankincense that were brought to the baby Jesus.
Yeah, now we're going to look at this Hebrew scroll real quick just because it's kind of cool. Do you know anything about this?
The scroll, we think, was originally made in Turkey. It's about 400 years old. It was written in Hebrew by a Jewish scribe, If we unrolled this completely, it would be almost 70 feet long.
And what part of the Bible is this?
It begins with Genesis 1:1 and ends with the last verse of Deuteronomy. So the first 5 books of the Bible.
Okay.
What we would call the Pentateuch, what the Jews would call the Torah.
And this looks like some sort of leather material.
Yes, it was made with animal skin. You could call vellum, and it might be like a calf hide. Sometimes they used sheep, even deer skin at times. The Torah was written from right to left, read right to left. And one of the interesting things is, and we try to be very careful about this, the Jewish people never touch the words of a Torah scroll. The words of God are considered so holy that they use a pointer called a yad or a yod.
Yeah.
And read
I've actually got a little miniature one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically shaped just like a human hand and finger, and they read it right to left. One other thing about this, you can see how this was stitched together. This was where part of the animal hide ended and I guess began over here. The scribe was called a sofer, and if you look carefully, you can see that he used a knife to score the vellum to make straight lines.
So right here along that line, you see it.
Yes.
To kind of create margins.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that helped keep things looking neat.
Yeah.
This language, as I understand, was Aramaic, which is a dialect of Hebrew, but a particular dialect that Jesus himself spoke.
Yeah. Well, Perry, thank you so much for your time. This is just an incredible collection. And I would love an opportunity one day to see the entire thing, because I understand this is only part of it.
It is, but we certainly did condense this down to the core.
Yeah. But thank you again.
Sure.
God bless you, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on.
Thank
this
you
is
so much.
definitely more than a nickel's worth.